All right, everybody. We are live. It is Brad Chaplick, condominium lawyer at Horlick, Levitt, Lella. Thank you for joining us as we are streaming live yet again. We love to see your questions in the comments. This is a time for you, our friends and clients and community members to ask us questions, and we will answer them. So it's Wednesday, October 14th, and I'm streaming to you from Toronto, where we are back in Stage 2, and it's modified Stage 2, but Stage 2 nonetheless. So that's exciting news. And other things going on, we have some fan mail. We're going to talk about deadlines for condominium meetings and the fact that the time within which to pass your electronic meetings bylaw was extended. And we're going to talk about health screening for condominium corporations in terms of their employees. So those are all things we want to talk about today. I don't see any questions coming in yet, so please type your questions. And in the meantime, we'll talk about the new restrictions that came into effect for Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa for as of this past weekend. So they're in effect now. The main impact on condominium corporations with being back in a modified Stage 2 is the effect on your amenities. So the most important of that is that gyms should be closed, fitness facilities. And we thought that this would be the case when the announcement was made on Friday, but we didn't have the regulation. So the regulation wasn't published until I think yesterday, so Tuesday. And because when we wrote our update over the weekend, we still didn't have the regulation. And then finally, I think late Tuesday, they published it. And it does confirm that things like weight exercise machines and weights must be closed, and basically anything that you would have in your condominium corporation's amenity gym. So all of that is that's closed. And except also locker rooms should be closed unless they are linked to a swimming pool, which can actually remain open. So that's a little bit surprising. So for those condos that have swimming pools, technically, I guess you're allowed to keep them open with health and safety measures in place. Whether you would actually want to do that is up to you. I suspect that a lot of condos will elect to close all of their amenities, but for those who want to keep the pools open, technically it's allowed as long as you can monitor and contact trace and ensure adequate cleaning and all these things of your locker rooms, all that stuff. So that's the latest on the Stage 2 restrictions. So close your gym, decide whether you want to close your pool, and then any other indoor amenity rooms, things like card rooms, party rooms, you're basically looking at closing all of these areas just on a policy basis. Even if you're not necessarily required to do so, I can't think of a rational reason why you would have a party room available because it can't be occupied by more than 10 people. They're not supposed to be having social gatherings. So there's really no use for it having it open. It's my view of the matter. Another thing we can mention is open houses. So in the modified Stage 2 for Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa, you might think that real estate open houses would be prohibited, but they're not. They're actually allowed, provided that there are 10 people or fewer in the open house at any given time. That said, as a condominium corporation, you might decide as a matter of policy that you don't want to have open houses, which is not to say that you would prohibit in-person real estate showings, but rather you would prohibit open houses where people don't come by specific appointment, because of crowd control and the need to keep people separated from each other. So I think that's a totally reasonable thing for a condominium corporation to do. And if you are thinking about having safety measures in place for your condominium corporation that are more strict then the law requires you can do that, but you should do so by way of written policy with notice to all owners, and you should do that in consultation with your legal counsel. So, oh, finally we get a question. How do we open a pool when showers and change rooms must be closed? So this is from Rudy. The locker rooms, showers, change rooms are allowed to be open for the purposes of supporting a swimming pool, but not for any other purpose. Steam rooms, saunas, hot tubs all have to be closed, but a swimming pool could be open and the associated locker room with it can be open. So that's the way it's written. I don't know what the rationale for that would be, but those areas are allowed to stay open. Common element washrooms can also be open. Harlan's saying residents have to shower in their units. So you could do it that way too. But most swimming pool regulations require you to have a shower facility in order to have your pool open. So if you close the locker rooms, then you can't have the pool open, right? You have to have the bathing the pre-swimming pool shower facility is part of the health and safety requirement of operating a pool. So you can't open the pool and keep the locker rooms closed. If you're opening the pool, you have the locker rooms open for that purpose. If you're not comfortable opening the locker rooms, don't open your pool. That's the advice on pools. So yeah, so that's what's going on with swimming pools and with gyms, and this is expected to last at least 28 days, so taking us to mid-November. And we'll see if it gets extended further then, or if, this Friday there are even more changes, because I think that's probable as well. So we can come back to this throughout the live stream if people have more questions about modified stage 2 and what it means. It would be totally reasonable if you did have those questions, given that this is all sort of brand new law for everybody, and I'll try to do my best to answer them. So, condo meetings. So much has been said about this, but I'll just repeat it one more time for everybody. The deadline to have your AGM was not extended. What was extended recently, maybe a couple weeks ago now, was there was a November 21st date by which condominium corporations could no longer have virtual meetings without first passing a bylaw. And that deadline to sort of pass your virtual meetings bylaw, basically, was extended from November 21st to March 31st, 2021. So that's a great thing. That takes a lot of pressure off of condominium corporations that were having meetings just to pass bylaws so that they could have their AGM later and do it virtually. So that need to have 2 meetings has been alleviated. So a lot of condos that were planning to have that double meeting stack have canceled the first meeting, pushed the bylaw onto the AGM, and that opens up more bandwidth for condos that need to have their AGMs, and just generally gives people more time to plan. So that's a really good change, and we're very happy about it. And if your corporation has not yet passed your electronic meetings bylaw, now's the time to do it. Get it all teed up for your AGM. Get that done before May 31st, and then you're good to go for electronic meetings for the foreseeable future. So that's what you need to do. And same goes for electronic board meetings. So once again, the regulation that said you could have an electronic board meeting despite the objection of an owner, like even without unanimous consent, and you could send notice of a board meeting by email, again, even if people objected. Those regulations were all set to expire November 21st. They've all been extended to May 31st. And even after May 31st, you can continue having electronic board meetings with unanimous consent. So that's great. So we have some fan mail. We got an email here from a board president saying, this was to Bharat. Bharat, if you don't know, you got to know. Bharat Kapoor is the go-to guy in our HLD meetings, a virtual annual general meeting group. And he is the absolutely like the brains behind this operation of virtual meetings. He designed a lot of our systems, and so we rely on him quite a bit for this kind of stuff. And it's an email to Barat, and it says, "Good morning, Barat. Just wanted to let you know that the board was so impressed with how well you ran the AGM. We particularly appreciated your patience during rehearsal. It was our first virtual AGM that any of us had attended, so we weren't sure what to expect. You ran the meeting so professionally and smoothly, it exceeded all of our expectations. Mr. Horlick was an excellent chairperson. He was so warm, as well as being professional and businesslike. The service offered by your firm was first rate and reasonably priced," which we also appreciated. So congratulations, Barat. Welcome to the Fan Mail Club. And for people who are looking to schedule virtual meetings of owners, that's what HLD Meetings is. It's state-of-the-art virtual meeting software for hosting electronic voting, and we provide the lawyer as chairperson. So that's what that item is. The other thing I wanted to mention was health screening. So regulation came into effect September 26th, so just a little over 2 weeks ago, and it requires workplaces to screen all employees and workers to give a health screening questionnaire before you can come into your workplace. So this affects condominium corporations because people work in condos, and it applies to anyone who's working in the condo for the condo. It would not apply, in my view, to someone working in the condo for an owner. So I'll give you examples. So it definitely applies to your management staff, your office admin, your superintendents, your cleaners, your security staff, and it also applies to anyone who the condominium corporation is having come in to do maintenance and repair. If the condo is having deliveries come in for supplies, if they have, the condo called a plumber in, if the elevator maintenance technician is in, all of these people working for the condo, even if they're not your employees, must fill out a health screening questionnaire before they enter the working area. And so this is something that all the condominium corporations should be doing. And people have said, well, what about people coming in to do work for unit owners, or food deliveries for unit owners? And the answer is, I don't think it's included. Not those people. Only the people who the condominium corporation is responsible for, in terms of that the condo would be calling them in and then have some sort of control over them. So if a unit owner calls a plumber, you have no control over that person. You didn't pick them. You don't have the right to dismiss them. So you're not responsible for requiring them to fill out a health screening questionnaire. It would be whatever company they work for that is responsible for doing it. And the condo is, or the unit owner in that case is just like the client. But it's pretty widespread, and we want to make sure that condominium corporations are aware of this requirement and that they're following it, so that they don't get into trouble or run afoul of anything like that. So I don't have any questions. I guess I'm a little surprised that people don't have questions about the new regulations. I guess it means that people are getting more informed. I've sort of said everything I wanted to say about it. We've talked about the gyms, we've talked about pools, we've talked about steam rooms and saunas, we've talked about open houses. So I'll just mention one more time before, cutting the session relatively short here, just due to lack of questions, that it is open for condominium corporations to have policies in place for their own building that are stricter than what the provincial emergency orders provide. And this is really important because there's a difference between whether you are permitted to have your party room open for rent and whether you should. And just because you're permitted to do something doesn't mean you should. And what may be okay in a single family detached home, like having an open house with 10 people, it might not be okay in a high-rise condominium building to have people streaming in and out all afternoon to view an open house, even if there's no more than 10 in there at a time. It just might not be appropriate given the size of the unit and the amount of traffic in the building. And so what might not be fine in a high-rise condominium, maybe it is fine if your condominium corporation is townhomes. And so each condominium corporation, each board of directors, each property manager needs to sit down on a regular basis and think about what are their policies, are they appropriate, do they need to be updated, and then turn their mind to formalizing a policy, having it passed by board resolution, giving notice to owners, and then implementing it in a consistent and fair manner. And so, just this little sort of second wave step back into stage 2 is in my view, the right time to be considering all of these issues and deciding what's going to be the policy to take us through basically to the end of the year. And then we can, reassess if it looks like Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa are going to go back into stage 3. And for those condos, maybe you're up in York Region and you're not in this enhanced stage 2 area, but you're really close to the boundary. Maybe you want to hold yourself to the higher standards. So just because your condo's north of Steeles doesn't mean that your gym should be open, right? Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And if there's no more questions from anyone, then that's going to be our very short session for this Wednesday. So, and that's totally fine. Sometimes they're an hour long because we've got lots of questions, and sometimes they're 20 minutes because we don't. Anyways, I don't see any other questions coming in, so we will say bye-bye for now. Thank you for everyone who stopped by, and we'll see if we'll do it next week or if we'll do it 2 weeks from now, depending on what's going on in the world. We thought we would do one this week just because of the recent amendments, and we wanted to make sure that people had a chance to ask us questions about it. But if things sort of stay the same, then we might move to every 2 weeks. And keep your eye out because we've got a Case Law Corner video coming out from Paneet, which we're really excited about as well. So thanks so much, and we'll see everyone again soon.